All right, guys. Thank you. My name is Holly, and I am from Exotic Adventures. I am a wildlife educator. Now, Exotic Adventures, we are a wildlife education facility and also an exotic animal rescue. We are located outside of State College, Pennsylvania. We actually travel all over. We actually travel the entire state of Pennsylvania and surrounding states, where we get to do educational programs to teach the general public about wildlife conservation and zoology. And we do that by using some of our amazing animal ambassadors. We have over 200 animals at our facility, and I've brought a few here today for y'all to learn about and meet. But before we start, I'm going to go over a few rules and guidelines. The number one most important rule we do ask from our audience is try to remain as quiet as possible. I know this is pretty exciting, but the reason why we ask that is a few reasons. Firstly, I want you to be able to hear me so you can enjoy all the amazing information I'm going to give you. Also, too, we are going to be working with live animals here today, so I just want you to be able to hear me so I can give you instructions to keep everybody safe. The other reason is we do have some animals here with sensitive hearing, so we just ask everybody to try to remain as quiet as possible. Now, our program normally runs about 45 minutes or so. We always like to leave the questions at the end, so I'll leave the last 5 or 10 minutes for questions. So if you have a question for me about anything we're talking about here today, or any of the animals, or anything random, I can't guarantee I'm going to be able to answer it, but anything random about animals, I can do my best to answer this for you. The second thing about today's program is it's going to be interactive. What does that mean? That means that you might get a chance to come up and touch animals here today if you would like to. Now, what's going to happen here is I'm going to bring out one animal at a time. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes talking about that species. And then if we can touch the animal, now I think all of our animals, we've got 8 species here today. One of our animal species we do not touch, but the rest are interactive. So what I will do is I'll call people up, or maybe I'll walk around and give people a chance to touch that animal if you'd like to. Now, all of our animals are friendly. They are professionals, but if there's an animal here that you do not want to touch, you don't have to. Like I said, it is completely volunteer-based only, but I do encourage y'all to maybe get out of your comfort zone. We've got animals from all around the world here today that you can interact with and meet. I think that's about it. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So my first animal that I'm going to be bringing out, his name is Homer. Homer is an animal that we have had for, I want to say 6 or 7 years. He is full grown. We'll bring him out. I'll talk a little bit about him. All right, he's a little bit. This is Homer. Homer is one of our many amazing snake species that we have at Exotic Adventures. Now, we have over 50 snakes, and this is one of our Woma pythons that we have at Exotic Adventures. Homer is about 12 years old. Now, interestingly, snakes can live a pretty long time. This species can live to be anywhere between 20 to 30 years of age in captivity. So he's about middle age for a snake. Now, in the snake world, most of the time, most species, females tend to get larger than males. So this guy is about 5 feet almost in length when you kind of unfurl him. Females can get to up to or even over 6 feet for the Woma python species. Can you guys hear me back there? Yeah, okay, just making sure. What else? So this guy, as I said, he came to us about 7 or 8 years ago. He actually was an animal that came to us from another zoological facility. Unfortunately, they lost their funding and they couldn't afford to take care of their animals any longer, which is starting to happen more and more, unfortunately, in the sciences, the natural sciences, and zoology. So we were able to take in some of their animals, and Homer was one of those. So now he lives with us permanently as an animal ambassador. Now, in the wild, you'll notice his beautiful coloration. He is brown and he is tan. It's almost like tiger striping. This is completely natural. This species has this beautiful kind of pattern. Does anybody have a guess? Why do you think he has this coloration? Anybody have a guess? Why do you think he has these tiger stripes?
Where does he live?
Well, we'll tell you in a minute, but anybody have an idea why do you think he would have those patterns? camouflage, right? It doesn't, most animals across the world, their coloration tends to mimic their environment to help them to be able to camouflage. So this animal is able to blend into his surroundings thanks to that amazing pattern and color. Now, Homer here would be found in Australia. He is an Australian species. Sadly, the Woma python in certain parts of the country of Australia is a threatened species. Does anybody know what does it mean for an animal to be threatened? Any ideas? Yeah, the species is declining. Now, they are not quite to the point where they are an endangered species, but basically, threatened species is one basic category under endangered. Their populations are shrinking, and they are very close to becoming endangered. Now, when you hear an animal is threatened or endangered, normally it's because of something we are doing as people, and that is the case with the Woma python. There's a few things that are going on in Australia. The first thing is we are destroying his habitat. So there's less places for him to be able to survive, to live, to have offspring, and that obviously impacts the population. The other issue is that people oftentimes are afraid of snakes. How many people have ever heard the phrase, the only good snake is a dead snake? Yeah, I hear that quite often. I don't know why people come up to me and tell me that at our shows. Like, they clearly don't understand the audience there, but I hear that quite a lot. And unfortunately, people will see snakes. They're either afraid of them or somebody has villainized them, and they'll see them in their yard, and they'll decide that they're going to just kill or dispatch that animal. Even though he is harmless, this is not a venomous snake. I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy, right? So people oftentimes kill snakes because they're afraid of them or they see them out in their yard and they don't want them around. Now, can anybody tell me, why are snakes good? Why should we maybe not hurt snakes? Yeah, so they are basically Mother Nature's pest control, right? Snakes have a very important job to do in the ecosystem. Now, if tomorrow every snake in the world just fell off the face of the earth, we would have a major problem. Basically, all of the animals that they eat a lot of different species of small mammals, rodents like mice, rats, shrews, voles, you name it. So if these animals weren't here, those animals would then have an explosion in their population. We would have a ton of rodents and other animals everywhere. And that's a problem for the ecosystem and for people. I mean, firstly, they carry diseases. So that means that there's going to be a lot more disease spreading around. They're going to destroy agriculture and crops. So that's going to impact our food and the cost of food. And the other issue people oftentimes don't realize is the number one reason for house fires are actually rodents chewing on your electrical warding in your house. So without snakes, you're going to have a lot more house fires. So snakes are super important to have around. They have a very important job to do in the ecosystem. Now, we encourage people, obviously, if you see a snake outside, just go the other way, leave them alone. But we also encourage people not to harm snakes because they have a very important job to do. Plus, I don't know about y'all, but I have a big black snake in my yard. I would much rather him sleep underneath my shed and not have mice and rats in my house during the winter than having the mice and rats in my house during the winter, right? So they have an important job to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call up a couple people. Before we start, I always like to go over some rules for handling our animals. Now, the number one rule is we never touch around the head. This is what we call the business end, right? So this animal is super friendly. He actually just shed for you guys, so he has his new clothes on today. So he's nice and shiny. Homer here is actually, as I said, we have over 50 snakes. This is one of the he's the sweetest snake. We actually named him after Homer Simpson because he's yellow, he has eyebrows, and he's very sweet but not very smart. So he's a very sweet snake. So number one rule is with all of our animals is we don't touch around the head. Even though all of our animals are super friendly, we just don't want to touch on the head. Most people don't want to be bopped on the head. They don't really like it either. So I'm going to go ahead and present you their tail or an area that is appropriate to touch, and you can one at a time touch him. So I'll go ahead and present you his tail. Now, is there anybody here that would like to either come up or I can come over to you if you'd like to go ahead and touch? Come on. All right. Well, everybody's pretty brave in the front row.
very smooth and
Very
cool.
smooth. I once had a student say they kind of feel like a basketball, and I would say that's a pretty good analogy. They're not slimy or wet. They're actually very smooth and soft and almost rubbery.
Yeah, beautiful.
Anybody else around here? Anybody? All right, come on over. Yeah, if you want to come up too, you're welcome to. Be your only time probably to ever be able to touch a threatened species from Australia, right? All right. Are you okay for me to reach over with him? All right.
He is cold though.
He's a little cold, so it is a little
Is that
bit.
the weather rather than?
Yeah, luckily these guys are pretty robust.
You can touch him.
It's okay. We don't want to cause anybody to have a traumatic experience here today. Do you want me? It's okay if I come this way? Just let her touch? All right. I don't want to, like I said.
It's really silky, kind of. I taught a class with a snake wrapped around my.
Oh, okay. So you can come work for us. Yeah? All right. Is anybody else wanted to go ahead and get a crack at it? All right. Yeah, yeah.
It's a very different feel.
Did you guys want to touch? Okay, sorry. I thought I saw a hand.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'll come to you. These two lovely people don't seem to worry about him. Come.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Their body temperature.
So yeah, it's a little bit, just because it's a little bit cooler out here today, but these guys generally are okay as long as it's over 60. So the temperature in here is totally fine. Anybody else back here? All right. Good job. All right. Did I miss anybody that wants their crack at this? All right. No. All right. So we'll go ahead and put Homer back. I'm going to bring out my next friend. Now, my next animal friend is named Martini. I know it's a little bit early for her, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So now Martini is going to be probably one of the smallest animals we have here today. But what she lacks in size, she does make up for in cuteness. So I'm going to kind of wander around with her while I'm talking because she is a little bit small. So I want you guys to be able to go ahead and see her. She is an animal we've had for a number of years. I want to say we've had her for a solid 8 years or so. So she is full grown and she is a rescue. We'll talk a little bit about her. All right. So my next animal friend is named Martini. Now, Martini is one of our many gecko species that we have at our facility. Now, we have I think right now we have 7 different gecko species from all around the world. And this is an African fat-tailed gecko. Now, she is full grown. This is as big as she'll get. And she's really cute. She's kind of got that gecko smile. We find that people who don't like reptiles tend to like her. We call her our gateway reptile, right? She's not as scary as some of our other reptiles. So we're not going to touch quite yet. I'm just letting you guys get a kind of up-close look, and then we'll talk a little bit about her. And then if y'all want to go ahead and get a chance to go ahead and touch her, we can definitely facilitate that as well. Now, she is an African fat-tailed gecko. She is, as I said, we got her as a rescue. So we don't really know how old she is, but she's probably at least 10 years of age. Now, unfortunately, we get a lot of geckos into rescue, and that is because geckos are actually very popular in the pet trade. If y'all have ever been to a pet store, you've probably seen that they sell a lot of different geckos. And the problem with that is they're not always the greatest pet for everybody. People kind of go there and they impulse buy something that's fun and cute. Now, in Martini's case, she was somebody's pet for their 5-year-old for Christmas. And they were looking for something to get that 5-year-old. They looked at hamsters and fish, and they decided on the gecko. Now, the problem with that is that they didn't do a whole lot of research, and they did not realize that this animal can live to be 20 to 25 years of age. Yeah, they were not prepared for an animal that was going to be around long after that child went away to medical school, right? Which is pretty common. People will get them. They think that they're an easier, smaller pet than a rabbit or a dog, and not realizing that these guys are going to live 2-3 times longer than most of those animals, and they do take quite a bit of time, and knowledge to be able to properly care for them. So we get a lot of these guys into rescue. People get them as pets for their kids. The kids lose interest or things change, and now they have an animal that's going to live 2 decades they don't want. So we get a lot of these guys. Now, as I said, she is the fat-tailed gecko. Can anybody guess, why do you think they call her the fat-tailed gecko? She's a curvy lady, right? She's kind of got that chunky tail. Now, this animal is from Western Africa. It's quite warm there, and she is a nocturnal species. Who knows what is nocturnal? Night, yeah. So she sleeps during the day. Where she lives, it can get to be 100, 110 degrees. So most animals do not want to be out in that. So during the day, she's underground in a burrow that's cooler, and she's sleeping. At night, the sun is going to set. It's going to cool down. She's going to come out and look for food. And she is an insectivore. So she's going to eat all kinds of different insects that would be wandering around the floor of her environment. Now, in the zoology world, there's a term that we use quite frequently. It's the term of defense mechanism. Now, most animals, wild and domestic, have defense mechanisms, one if not many. Now, this species, her major defense mechanism, which is a way for her to defend herself and survive in the wild, is going to be her tail. So let's say she is hanging out on the floor at night, floor of her environment, looking for food, and an owl came and wanted to eat her. What she's going to do, she's going to stay really still, and she's just going to move her tail around. She's trying to encourage that animal to grab her by the tail. Now, when they grab her by the tail, she's going to completely detach or pop her tail right off her body. It's just going to fall right off. And then it's going to wiggle around, completely independent of her body for up to 30 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty crazy, right? Now, she's hoping that that animal is going to see that tail, it's going to focus on that, and it's going to be distracted enough to not look at her and to give her enough time to run away. And then, if she survives, hopefully that animal's focused. I mean, that'd be like somebody's arm falling off and wiggling around. Would you all be a little bit distracted? Yeah. So if that animal is distracted and she's able to get out of there and survive, she can then regrow, or what we call regenerate, her tail back. It takes about 1 to 2 years for her to fully regrow her tail back, but once she does, she can then drop it off all over again and use it to defend herself again. So it's a pretty amazing adaptation for this species. Now, friends, I'm going to come around and give you guys a chance to pet her. What we're going to do is we're going to use one finger. We're going to just gently pet her on the tail. Now, just gently. Now, she's never lost her tail before. We do not want today to be that day, right? So we're going to use one finger and just gently pet her on the tail. Now, raise your hand if you would like to get a chance of touching her. We'll go ahead to front row here, just gently on the tail. Good job.
Oh, it's kind of, oh, she's so pretty. She's cute.
She's very cute.
She feels like velvet.
She's very soft, so even though she comes from a very hot, dry, arid area, she comes out only at night, so the sun never touches her skin. So she can have beautiful, like, she looks like she's been just swimming around in, like, retinol cream, right? She's got beautiful, like, skin, and that's because she never sees the sun. Who else wants to raise your hand if you want to try?
I just want to see it.
Sure.
Does she change colors?
She does not. So she's not a species that's going to change color. This is going to be her only color, which helps her to blend in. All right, anybody? Oh, just on the tail. Perfect. Julie, you want to?
She's food for like owls.
Owls, larger. I'm going to just come, if you don't mind my reach. Other different. Yeah, there you go. Owls, birds, other larger lizards and snakes and things like that. So, yeah, just about anything. Basically, anything that eats other animals and is larger than her, probably going to eat her. Sure.
Do some change colors?
Not in this particular species. There are some, I mean, the most known is going to be the chameleon you're probably thinking about. And they are actually able to go ahead, they're actually can use their blood to be able to go ahead and change colorations, to be able to go ahead and, to change colors. Now, they're not able to go ahead and actually change colors to blend into their surroundings, but each species has different colorations that should be able to match their surroundings based on where they live. So you can't put them on a pink blanket and he's going to turn pink, right? It's going to be probably different shades of blue or green depending on where they come from. Anybody else? Yeah. Sure.
Oh, it's cute. Oh, I love the tail.
Anybody else? Do you? Oop, just, yep, on the tail. Perfect. Did I get everybody? Everybody? Oh, I see a hand. I'm getting into my steps today.
If I could get a good look at it, it's hard to see that far away.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
precious.
just right on the tail. Perfect. All right, good job. Everybody get to touch who wanted to touch? All right, so we're going to put this animal back. I'm going to bring my next animal out. Her name is Thelma. She's a little bit spicy, so we'll see what she's doing. I have to put something heavy on her little enclosure. She's going to try to bust right out. When you see her, you will not be concerned with that statement at all. All right, so this is Thelma. Thelma is one of our many tortoises and turtles that we have at our facility. So she is a redfoot tortoise. She is pretty feisty. When we got her in, she came about a year ago this October. When we got her in, we named her Blossom because we thought that was really cute, but we found out that she is a pretty fiery lady, so another one came in with her, and we named them Thelma and Louise. They're a little bit spicy. So this is Thelma. Thelma is a redfoot tortoise. We have a number of different tortoises at our facility. We have 4 redfoot tortoises. Now this animal gets its name, it's pretty literal. She has red, like orangish red scales around her head and her legs, which is how they get their name, the redfoot tortoise. Now Thelma came to us last October, so almost a year ago. She was a pet that somebody just did not want any longer. We don't know really how old she is, but based on her size, my educated guess would be she's probably between 5 and 6 years of age. Now, this species is known to live a long time, and they get larger. This species can get to be a little bit smaller than a basketball, so she'll get a little bit larger. And this species can easily live to be 60 or 70 years old. So this is not a pet. This is a family heirloom, right? I now have to have children so that I can will them the tortoises and the parrots that are going to outlive me, right? So these animals live a pretty long time. Now, in the wild, she would be found down in South America, more tropical areas in the Amazon, places like Brazil. And she would be wandering around the floor of the forest, eating different vegetation, grasses, and insects. Now, interestingly, most turtles and tortoises are solitary, meaning they don't really like to hang out with each other. You don't really see them together unless it's breeding season. There are a few exceptions, including the redfoot tortoise. You actually find them kind of wandering around in little herds together, eating. So we actually have a small little herd or group of these guys. We have 4 females that get to hang out together. During the summertime, they hang out outside in our enclosure, and then during the wintertime, they come in and we have a heated reptile building for them. Now, sadly, most of our turtles and tortoises that we get are people's pet that they do not want any longer. As I mentioned, they live a very long time, and they actually take a lot of space and time and expense to properly care for. So what happens is people get these guys, they don't realize the commitment, and then there's not a whole lot of places that'll take these guys. You can't just drop them off at the local humane society. So what they do is they just release them outside into the wilds of Pennsylvania, which is about where 70 to 80% of our tortoises and turtles come from. Luckily, they kind of luck out. They wander around, and somebody finds them and realizes that they're not from here. Now, can anybody tell me why is it a bad idea for us to release our pets outside? Any ideas? Yeah. Well, yeah. So like dangers, right? Cars and predators. Now, she is from the rainforest. Is Pennsylvania like the rainforest? No, y'all. I moved here from Florida, and I can barely make it through the winter. This animal is not going to be able to survive a winter here, right? It gets too cold. We don't have the right temperatures, the right resources and food. So in most cases, when people release their pets outside, you probably hear, because it happens all the time, especially in warmer months here in Pennsylvania, that they find alligators, right? People just find them in a pond or a river, a lake. Unfortunately, they are legal for people to keep, and they are terrible, terrible pets. People quickly realize that, and then they decide, because they can't just dump them off at their local humane society, that they're going to dump them in their lake. Obviously, those animals, once October, November come around, they're not going to be able to survive. Same thing with most of the other animals people release outside as well. Now, she's a tortoise. Does anybody know what is the difference between a turtle and a tortoise? Yeah, it has to do with where they live. Now, it's very confusing, even for me. So, all turtles and tortoises are technically turtles, but not all turtles and tortoises are technically tortoises. It is crazy. I don't even know half the time. I can't even say that phrase all the time. I'm like confused. But to make it easier, tortoises are land animals. So if you hear an animal is a tortoise, you know that that animal only lives on land. Most tortoises cannot swim or hold their breath. So if you find a tortoise somewhere, somebody tells you tortoise, do not throw it into a lake thinking that you're emancipating it back into the wild, right? These guys cannot swim. So our tortoises, we give them nice little kind of jacuzzis for them to go into. They're only a few inches deep of water where they can go in, they can bathe themselves, they can drink and hydrate, but they can't march out into a deep end and we'll never see them again, right? Turtles, on the other hand, tend to live in and around the water. They tend to be either aquatic or semi-aquatic, and they need water for their life cycles. So that's the major difference. Now I'm going to come around and give you guys a chance to meet her. We're just gently going to touch her on her shell. Now, I do not know why, but people always want to knock on our turtle and tortoise shells. I don't know why. I think it's because they don't realize that turtles and tortoises can feel their shell. Now, it is made out of bone with tissue and then keratin over it. And keratin is the same thing that makes hair and fingernails for us, right? So they can feel that. So if you do pet her, just gently pet her on the shell. Please don't knock. I don't think y'all guys would, but I always have to just say it because you never know. They can fear those shells, so we do ask that you just gently pet. Now, I am going to go ahead and have her wrapped up in her little blanket, towel. People oftentimes ask us about that. Now, turtles and tortoises, they eat and drink constantly. And that has to go somewhere, right? We do not want a splash zone situation here, right? So she's going to have her little towel underneath her just in case. She's pretty good. We've got a couple tortoises. They like to be spicy, right? They like to go ahead and save things up until terrible moments during shows. But she's normally pretty good, but we're not going to chance it here today. All right, so raise your hand if you want to go ahead and just gently pet her. Now, I did have to dig her out of her burrow this morning, so she's a little bit dirty. I did not wash her off. It was just a little too cold to get her wet.
How are you keeping his head out?
Oh, so that's a great question. She said, how do I keep her head out? I do not. That is totally Thelma. So when we use our educational animals or animals for education, we only use animals that like to be handled and touched. If this animal was upset and didn't want people touching her, she would be in her shell. She is out and about because she is ready for her close-up. She likes people. She wants people to touch her. So that is just only Thelma. She has that out. I cannot make these animals do anything. All right, raise your hand. Who am I missing? All right, keep your hands raised as I'm coming through. Anybody else?
Her head is interesting, her mark even on her feet.
Yeah. All right, did you want to touch? All right, anybody else I'm missing? All right, we'll put Thelma back. I'm going to bring my next friend. His name is Jub Jub. All right. Now, Jub he's still technically a baby, so he is still growing. Want to come out? All right. So this is Jub. Jub is a northern blue-tongued skink. Now, you might see him sticking his tongue out, and it is bright blue, which is how they get their name, the blue-tongued skink. Now, people always ask me, what the heck is a skink? And a skink is just a family of lizards. Just like there's a iguana family with different types of iguanas, the skink family is just a family of lizards. And there's skinks all over the world. Now, interestingly, we have two native skink species found right here. Ooh, say that fast. Native skink species. We have two different of those native species here to Pennsylvania. So we have two skink species right here. Now, we don't have anything as cool as this here, though. Now, he is another Australian species. He is from northern Australia. Now, he is still growing. This guy is still a baby, technically. I wouldn't say baby. He's a juvenile, so he's a teenager. He is about 1.5 years old. He is one of the few animals that's not a rescue we have. He actually was born at another facility, and he was basically born to be an animal educator ambassador. So they went ahead and had babies at that facility, and then they donated them to other facilities to use those babies for education. So he came to us from another facility. He is still growing. The northern blue-tongued skink can get to be up to 2 feet in length, and they can live to be over 30 years old. So another animal, you might notice a pattern here. These animals tend to live a pretty long time, right? Now, he is from Australia. I used to live in Australia. As I said, he got that name because he has that bright blue tongue that he sticks out just like snakes do. Now, does anybody know, why do snakes and lizards stick their tongues out? Yeah, it's how they smell. So their nose is actually on the roof of their mouth. It's called the Jacobson organ. So if I put a big pizza down right here, would you all be able to smell it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what happens is those little pizza particles, they're very small. We can't see them with our eye. But those pizza smells basically will float off the pizza into the air around. Now mammals, like people, our nose is on our face. So all we need to do is breathe in through our nose. Our nose is right there. It tells us information, including smell. Now snakes and lizards, they have nostrils, or at least he does. But it's not connected to his nose. So he just breathes through it, but he can't smell. What happens is snakes and lizards stick their tongue out, wave it around, they pick up those little pizza smells, bring them back into their mouth, and put them in the roof of their mouth, which is their tongue, which is their nose. And it gives them all kinds of information, including smell. So when you see snakes and lizards sticking their tongues out, that's just them smelling. People think it's like them warning you or being aggressive. Not. He's just smelling. Now, obviously, he was named the blue-tongued skink because he has a bright blue tongue. Does anybody have a guess? Why do you think his tongue is blue? And I will give you a hint. It does not have anything to do with what he eats. So he did not go to 7-Eleven, get a blue slushie, and it just stayed that way, right? Any guess? No. So it is another, we just talked about this with our gecko, it is another example of a defense mechanism, which is kind of weird. Right? How do you defend yourself with a blue tongue? Now, he lives in Australia. As I mentioned, I used to live in Australia, and it is a pretty rough neighborhood. There is a lot of animals that are trying to eat you. Now, he's going to be hanging out in the northern regions of Australia in the forest, and he's going to hang out on the ground. Now, if, say, a predator came to eat him, take a gander at his little legs. Do you think he is a fast-moving animal? No, he has like Tyrannosaurus arms for legs, right? They're teeny tiny. So this is not an animal that's going to probably be able to outrun most animals. So if a predator came and wanted to eat him, he's probably not going to be able to outrun that animal. So his best way to defend himself is to try to scare that animal away. So what he's going to do is he is going to puff himself up to make him look bigger and scarier. He's going to open his mouth, he's going to hiss, and he's going to stick his tongue out. And his tongue is going to be bright blue. Now, in the animal world, bright colors are normally a warning sign. They mean beware. There are a lot of animals that tend to be venomous and or poisonous that are brightly colored, and that's because they are basically telling everybody, don't mess with me. I'm pretty dangerous. Now, he has that bright blue tongue, so a lot of animals are going to see that and think that he is a dangerous guy that they do not want to mess with. Now, in reality, he is not dangerous, he's not venomous, he's not poisonous. He's not really scary at all. He kind of looks like a Chipotle burrito with legs, right? It's not really that scary. But that other animal's not going to know it. He's going to pretend or bluff. And in a lot of cases, those animals are just going to leave him alone to look for an easier meal somewhere else. Now, friends, I'm going to come around and give you guys a chance to pet him. We're going to just use one finger and gently pet him on the tail, back of the tail. Raise your hand if you'd like me to come over to you and give you a chance to pet. We'll do the first. He's shedding a little bit, so you might get a little souvenir. All right, raise your hand if you'd like me to come your way. He is pretty cute. I think so.
Did you say how big he's going to
he can get to be almost 2 feet in length when he gets full grown. So he's getting pretty close. He probably
His picture,
sure.
he's an interesting creature. They're all so calm.
Well, so we only use our calm animals here. For every animal we use for education, we probably have 5 at our facility that are a little bit less inclined to come and meet people and let them touch. We have 4 of these guys. We have a couple different subspecies. We use 2 out of the 4 for education. The other 2 are a little bit grumpy, so we don't use them. You know, if they don't want to work, they don't have to. Anybody else? Do you want to touch? Yeah. All right. Did I miss anybody? One last. All right. So we're going to put this guy back. The next animal we're going to talk about is going to be my tarantula friend that's hanging out here. All right, so my next animal is going to be my tarantula. Now, this is the only animal we're not going to bring out and let you guys touch. I'm sure a lot of you are very upset about that. Her name is Rosie. Rosie is one of our many tarantulas. We have quite a number of tarantula species. We have, I think, about 8 species right now at Exotic Adventures. This is one of our Mexican red-kneed tarantulas, and her name is Rosie. A lot of people ask us, why do we not let people touch our tarantulas? And it's not because she's mean or aggressive or bites. This animal, like most of our tarantulas, are actually pretty nice, pretty social. They're pretty calm and docile. It's actually to protect our animals. So the number one priority or focus for us is always the health and safety of our animals above everything else. So if it's not a good idea for the animal, we're not going to do it, even if people will pay us a lot to do it. We've gotten requests for a lot of weird stuff over the years to do with our animals that people want to pay us for. We will not do it if it's not safe and a healthy thing for the animals. Now, these animals are very fragile. Tarantulas they actually have no skeletal system, so they are invertebrates. So they don't have a whole lot keeping their body in. They basically have an exoskeleton or shell that's keeping everything in, but they're very fragile. So if somebody got scared and bumped me and she just fell even a few inches from my hand, it probably would kill the animal. And we don't really want that, especially we understand a lot of people don't necessarily like or they're a little scared of spiders and tarantulas, which totally understand. So because of that, we feel like it's maybe a little bit safer for our animals and maybe less scary for people if you know that she is in her little travel box in here. After the show, you guys are welcome to come up and look at her and get a close look at her, but I'm not going to bring her out or let people touch her. Now, Rosie here, she's about 5 or 6 years of age. She has another few years until she is going to get full grown. So she's probably got another inch or so left to grow. Once she hits maturity, they have a very interesting lifespan. So her name is the Mexican red-tree tarantula. This animal, you will be excited to hear, is found right here in North America. You would find her in places like California and Mexico. Interestingly, the males and females tend to have very different sizes and lifespans. Males get smaller than females in most cases. And also, too, they have much shorter lifespans, which tends to be pretty common with a lot of animal species. The males and females hit maturity around the same time, but during the first breeding season, the males will stop eating, and they will breed for one breeding season, and then they will basically pass away or die. The females, on the other hand, will continue to eat and will be able to live for many years to come and to breed many breeding seasons. So this animal can easily live to be 20 to 25 years of life. So they live a really long time, the females at least do. So Rosie here, she's about 5 or 6, so she can live to be another 2 decades almost. So they can live a pretty long time. Now these animals are burrowing tarantulas. They are not able to climb up walls. They're not going to be making webs up there. Basically, they will make a burrow. Now, tarantulas have webbing or silk, just like the regular spiders you see here that are making webs in the hallways and branches and trees, but they're not going to climb up and make a web. What they basically do is they will go ahead and make a burrow. They will go ahead and use their sticky webbing or silk around the entrance of the burrow, and then they spend basically 95% of their life just in the burrow. And they wait for insects to come by and get stuck. And they're going to get stuck right at the doorway of their burrow. So it's what we call Uber Eats for tarantulas, right? So she basically is going to have food that's going to come right to her. It's going to get stuck right in the front of her burrow. She's going to come out. She's going to have her food, and she is going to be fed for that time period. So they're pretty amazing little animals. You might see she is up on the side of her little home. That's pretty normal. These guys do not climb up walls, but they still can kind of climb up or traverse like rocks and things like that. Interestingly, how many people have ever seen like the geckos that can go up walls and stuff? Those guys do not have suction cups. People oftentimes think it's because they've got sticky feet. That is not the case. The reason why things like tarantulas and those geckos can go up walls is because they have millions of hairs on their fingers. And those hairs are able to grip the imperfections of the walls or the things that are going up, almost like a rock climber, and they're able to go up that way. So this animal, like I said, you can see her on the side of the glass if you come up and look at her, and she's able to do that because of all of the little hair on her feet, just like a gecko would be able to do. Now the next animal I'm going to bring out, his name is Norman. Now he is very sensitive to sound, so we want to be extra quiet for him. Step up. All right, so this is one of our many bird species. Now we don't have just reptiles and invertebrates. We have just about everything at Exotic Adventures. We have parrots, kookaburras, and owls. This is obviously one of our parrots, Norman. Norman is an 8-year-old Eclectus parrot. His hatch date is around October, so he's almost 8 years old. He will turn 8 next month. This is a very young, mature male. He is, as I said, about 8. This species of parrot can live to be up to 50, but some of our parrot species can live to be well over 70 or 80, so they live a very long time. Now this species, you can tell he comes from a rainforest tropical area just by his coloration, right? He is bright red, he's got that candy corn beak, he's ready for spooky season, right? And so he's got this beautiful red in his wings as well. So this is a very brightly colored bird. Now we do not clip our bird's wings, so he can fly. We feel like flying is a very important behavior these guys should be able to do, and they are allowed and encouraged to fly at our facility. So he is flight trained, meaning he is trained to just hang out on my hand for shows. He is able to talk. This species can be quite good at talking or mimicking. He's young, so he says about a dozen different words or phrases right now, but he is not going to talk here today. We actually train our birds not to talk or scream during shows. And that's just because if your coworker is talking and screaming over you all day, it's kind of annoying. So he's probably not going to talk here today, but he does talk quite a bit. Now, the number one animal we get calls about at our facility are actually parrots. And that is because they are terrible pets for most people. And it's generally because, there's 4 different reasons. The first reason is they live forever. The oldest parrot we've ever had was 64 years old. So this is an animal that's going to outlive everybody. They're very loud. When you wake up in the morning, what do you hear outside? Birds, right? So parrots, they come from the tropical rainforest. It is summer all year round. And they like to get up around 5 in the morning and have a good scream. The problem with parrots is that they are designed to be able to communicate with their flocks from many, very vast distances. So when Norman here gets screaming, you can hear him screaming from 2 miles away, which is awesome in the rainforest. It's not awesome if it's in your living room at 6 in the morning every morning. We get calls all the time for people who get parrots, and they go, my parrot screams all the time. What do I do? I say, get a stuffed parrot. You know, that's just kind of part of it. They like to have a good scream in the morning and then around evening time as well, just like normal birds. It's just them communicating, and that's just a natural behavior. So not ideal for most people. I know somebody who used to breed parrots. She is now legally deaf because she was around them for so long. So they're very loud. The other issue is they're really smart. Norman here is as smart as a 4-year-old child. So this is not an animal you can just leave in a cage all day and just bring out once for an hour after work, right? This is an animal that needs to be out of its cage for 10 to 12 hours a day. It needs stuff to be doing. We have a special bird room. They have Disney Plus they can watch. They have toys. They're out of their cage. They have friends they get to hang out with. So they're really hard to take care of. They're really smart, if you're not able to do those things, then it can cause negative behaviors, more screaming, being destructive. They can actually start plucking or ripping out their feathers. So not a great thing. Most people just do not have that lifestyle. And the fourth worst probably issue with these guys is they bite. It's not if, but when. I have been bitten by a lot of weird stuff over my zoology career. Everything from bobcats to sharks. The number one animal I've gotten the most stitches from easily are parrots. So most people do not want to pet. The problem is these guys don't have hands. So when they're not happy with something, they don't want to be around, or they don't want you doing something, they can't just push you away. They're going to bite you. And the problem is their beaks are really designed to be able to destroy and open really hard shells and nuts, seeds, vegetables, trees. So your skin is not going to be able to go ahead and stand up to that. So they are able to bite and bite very hard. So basically I tell people having a parrot is kind of like having a 4-year-old that's going to live 70 years that bites and screams. Not a great pet. And that's why about 95% of these animals get rehomed in the first 5 years of their life. Now, Norman here, and I apologize, I lied. I'm going to walk around with him, but we have 2 animals we can't touch today, the tarantula and then the parrot. So we're not going to touch the parrot here today, just because, as I mentioned, they like feasting on the phalanges, and I don't want that for y'all today. I don't want to go to urgent care. You don't want to go to urgent care. So we're not going to touch him here today. Now, the other thing that I do like to mention and point out with this guy right now, you might notice that he is missing some feathers kind of around his neck and his back area. He looks a little raggedy, and that's actually normal. How many people have dogs or cats that are starting to shed right now, right? You're starting to shed in the spring and the fall. Now, people oftentimes don't realize that birds actually shed their feathers too. It's what we call molting. And they tend to molt or lose their feathers 1 to 2 times a year. Now, Norman here, he is a bird, we know he molts around the end of summer, beginning of fall every year. So he starts missing, all of his feathers start kind of falling out, and then he grows in nice, new, beautiful feathers in their stead. Now, it takes a couple of months for that to happen because he can't lose all of his feathers all at once, or he's not going to be able to fly, right? So they kind of slowly start losing different quadrants of their feathers, and then they're able to grow them in. So he is starting to actually molt or shed his feathers. So we actually like to take birds out when they're starting to do this, if they want to. A lot of birds get kind of cranky when they do, because it can be itchy or uncomfortable. Norman here is very, very mellow, so he doesn't mind it. Plus he gets his favorite food. So all of our animals that do programs, we actually give them, they only have to do 1 program a week normally. They come out for 5 minutes, and then as a payment, we give them their special favorite food at the end of the day. Now, Norman's is, and don't ask me why I know, his favorite food is McDonald's French fries. So we actually go through the McDonald's drive-thru after shows. We get him some French fries. And the worst thing is he likes to do the wolf whistle, and he likes to kind of harass the McDonald's people, and they think it's us. And we're like, it's not us. I promise you I'm not harassing you. It's the parrot. So he, like I said, he's a character. Birds are pretty amazing. We like to bring them out to kind of educate the public about them, how amazing they are, and also how amazingly terrible they are as pets for most people. So we're going to go ahead and bring this back. He does. So he knows when we are going through the drive-thru. So he can actually, he kind of knows what's going on. I think it's like he smells the food also too in the car. So he kind of knows what's going on. Oh, he's already starting to talk. Do you hear me talk about McDonald's? Yeah. He's ready. Plus, I think part of it is too, is he has been conditioned. He knows that he is getting French fries, probably pretty close to that. So he knows that that's kind of what's happening. Like I said, he's as smart as a 4-year-old. Most 4-year-olds kind of know what McDonald's is, right? So, all right, so we'll put this guy back. Now, my next animal friend, now Exotic Adventures, we have a lot of different exotic mammals at our facility. We have everything from ferrets and chinchillas to skunks and opossums. Get a lot of weird requests. Probably the weirdest exotic mammal we've ever been part of rescuing is a macaque monkey. A gentleman was illegally keeping her in a bird cage in his basement. Just an FYI, it is 100% illegal to have primates here in Pennsylvania, which is good. They're terrible pets. They're not good. And so we were able to kind of step in and to be able to facilitate rescue. Now, we do not have troops of monkeys at our facility, and primates really need to be, they're very social and communal, so they really need to be with their own kind. So we were able to find placement for that animal at a primate sanctuary down in Texas, so that animal was able to go there, and she now lives. She was integrated into the troop of macaques, and she now lives with those animals. So we do have a lot of crazy stuff. Now, unfortunately, most of our exotic mammals do not like going out into the public and letting strangers touch them. So we don't use a lot of our animals, our exotic mammals, for outside ambassador programs just because they don't like it. It's stressful. So we don't use a whole lot of those. But we do have a few animals that we do use that are cute, that are fuzzy, that people like to learn about, and that actually enjoy meeting people. So my next animal I'm going to bring out, his name is Iceman. We call him Manny for short. We'll bring him out. We'll talk a little bit about him. Now, he is not an exotic animal or a wildlife, but he is a rescue. So this is Manny. Manny is one of our house rabbits that we have at our facility. So he came to us about a year and a half, 2 years. No, it would be about 2 years now. He came to us 2 years. So we generally don't work with domestic animals, so dogs, cats, rabbits. And that's because we're one of only a few places in the state that work with exotics and wildlife. So we try to leave our space and our resources open for those animals. There's a lot of rescues and shelters and humane societies that already work with dogs and cats and rabbits and things like that. But if there's an emergency and nobody else is going to step forward, we will definitely try to help out if we can. So a couple years ago, we were contacted by somebody who had 2 rabbits. We ended up naming them Maverick and Iceman. And for whatever reason, the animals were really sick and she just would not take them to the vet. And so we continued to work with her to try to get the animals, and it went on for many months. And unfortunately, the animals continued to get sicker and sicker. And so we were eventually able to bring them in. Now, Maverick had a lot of health issues. He had full-blown pneumonia. This guy had a respiratory infection, and he had no fur. So we did not know he was a cute, white, fluffy rabbit. He had a parasite that causes all their fur to fall out. And so he just was a pink, crusty, hairless rabbit with red eyes. Or not red eyes, blue eyes. So we named him Iceman because of the blue eyes. About month 3 or 4, he started growing his fur in, and we realized he was a cute, white, fluffy rabbit. Now, sadly, Maverick did not survive. He was just too far gone. Maybe had that person surrendered the animal a couple months earlier, we would have been able to intervene in time. But the good news is this guy did survive, and he now lives his best life with us. He's neutered. He is litter trained like a cat and runs around. He is about 5 or 6 right now. Rabbits can live up to 10 years, so they can live a pretty long time. Interestingly, people don't realize that our pet rabbits we have are not at all related to the wild rabbits we have here in North America. Most people incorrectly believe that the wild rabbits we have out there are basically, these are the descendants, and that's not true. So thousands of years ago, people in Europe went ahead and caught and domesticated the European rabbit, and they used them for fur and food. And then eventually they brought them over the ocean when they were colonizing the Americas. So this guy is a descendant of the European rabbit, and what we have outside is the eastern cottontail rabbit. 2 completely separate animals, so much so that they cannot breed together. They are completely separate species. They're not closely related, and they're from 2 separate continents. Now, I'll kind of come around and give you guys a chance to pet him. Now, he is shedding a little bit, so like I said, you might get a souvenir. I'm actually allergic to rabbits, which is why I like to wear a long sleeve shirt. Raise your hand if you would like to pet him. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you would like. No, so we don't really know exactly what he is, but based on his size and the information from the breeder, we believe that he is a dwarf lionhead mix. So there is a species of lionhead. They tend to have short hair, except for they've got long hair around the neck like a mane of a lion. So we believe that that's where that comes from. Do you want to touch? Newcastle, so a little bit north of Sydney in New South Wales. Yeah, I lived in Newcastle, went to University of Newcastle in Australia. All right, anybody else? I'll come over to the other side. That might be an easier.
Like very much to
Yeah.
Is your name Snowball? I had one.
Should be, right? We always try to bring something for everybody.
What's this one's name?
His name's Iceman, but we call him Manny for short.
Okay.
Do parrots tend to get attached to one human?
Yeah, so her question was, do parrots get attached to one human? With most species, that is correct. With parrots, generally in the wild, they bond to one other parrot that is their mate for life. So in captivity, they generally will pick one person in the family. They will bond to that. That will be their person. And that could be an issue. We get a lot of contacted by a lot of owners where the wife will have always wanted a parrot her whole life. They spend $10,000. They buy this amazing parrot, and it bonds with the husband and hates her. That happens all the time. Basically, they will bond with one person, and it will be anywhere from they tolerate other people to they could flat out hate everybody else in the family and be jealous of them. And that causes problem because obviously if you're living with a parrot that loves one person and wants to kill the other person, not always a great situation, so we get a lot of those guys in. So we'll go ahead and put this guy back. All right, so my next animal, his name is Finn or Phineas. He came to us as a rescue about 4 or 5 years ago. He is full grown. All right, so this is a long-tailed chinchilla. His name is Finn. He's about 10 years of age. He came to us as a rescue, as I said, about 4 or 5 years ago. Now, out of all of the exotic mammals we get, the number one animal we get in are chinchillas. And that is because they are so stinking cute and they're soft. They are 10 times softer than the average dog or cat. So people see these guys on TikTok and they think, I want to get one of those and snuggle with it on the couch all day and watch Netflix. The problem with that is that these animals mostly do not like to be held or petted or touched, not for any period of time. So people will get them, and they will end up with an animal that is going to maybe sit on your lap for 15 seconds before it pees and bites you and runs away. So it's kind of a species that it's on their terms, not yours. They're not super domesticated like, say, a dog or cat would. The other issue is they live a really long time. These guys are rodents, but they can live to be up to 20 years of age in captivity. So they live a pretty long time. Now, in the wild, the long-tailed chinchilla would be found down in South America in places like Chile and Peru. Now, they are an endangered species, so there's not a lot of these guys left. And the reasons why, there's 2 major reasons. They're destroying their habitat. And also, too, if you've ever heard of chinchilla fur coats, this is where chinchillas come from. Now, it takes about 50 fins to make one full fur coat. So you can see how that can quickly become a pretty big problem for these guys. They live in really high mountainous regions in their kind of range. I was lucky enough to go to Peru and see them in their colonies. There's a colony of about 200 of them, and they spend their time in really high rock and mountainous cliff formations. And that's why they have such thick fur coat, because it's quite cold and windy and arid where they come from. Now, you can tell that they definitely operate in low visibility, right? These animals are actually what we call crepuscular. And that means that they're not nocturnal, they're not diurnal. They actually are most active during dawn and dusk. And so it's very low visibility. Interestingly, the most probably popular crepuscular animal we have here in Pennsylvania is the skunk. We actually have a couple skunks at our facility. They have very tiny eyes and terrible eyesight. And they come out during dawn and dusk when there's very low visibility. So that's why you see them a lot on the side of the road, especially during their breeding season in like March and April, and you smell them, is because they will come out looking for girlfriends or food. It's not great visibility. They have terrible eyesight. They'll come across the road and get hit by a car before they can tell what's going on. Now, these guys are also crepuscular, but you'll notice that they have big eyes. So they have much better eyesight that helps them to see in kind of the darkness. They've got those big ears, helps them to hear. Now, you'll notice he's got very long whiskers that are constantly moving. That is completely normal for an alert, awake chinchilla. They use their whiskers much like a cat to kind of feel around in the darkness. So that's just him smelling, and he is able to feel around with those long whiskers. Now, I'm going to come around and give you guys a chance to pet him. Now, as I mentioned, chinchillas really don't like to be handled or touched. We have 8 chinchillas. As I said, they're the #1 animal mammal we get unloaded at our facility. Most of them do not like to do these programs because it's kind of stressful. They don't like people touching them. We have 2 chinchillas, Stella and Finn, who allow people to touch them. So we're going to see, as long as he lets allow people to touch him, we'll go ahead and see. Once he gets squirmy, we might have to go ahead and just call it. That's generally him telling me that he's kind of over it, and we don't want to push it with him because we want him to continue to like his job. So we're going to come around. So raise your hand. We're going to just gently pat him on the back. Raise your hand if you would like to pet him. He is also shedding a little bit, so. All right, so raise your hand, raise your hand. All right, raise hands. All right. Yeah, they're about 10 times more dense than the average dog or cat, so they are very, very soft.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. All right, and he said that he's over it. All right, let you see him. All right, did I see one more hand? And then I think he's like kind of over it right now. Did you want to touch?
There you go. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, he's soft.
He's very soft. Good job, buddy. All right, good job, buddy. All right, so we're able to meet 8 of our amazing animal ambassadors. Like I said, our program generally lasts about 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, and then I always like to leave a little bit of time for questions. Now, does anybody have any questions for me about any of the animals we met or anything we talked about?
The tortoise, when he or she gets larger, what happens to the shell?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Her question is, when the tortoise grows, what happens with the shell? So it's kind of the same principle as our skull, right? As our skull grows, there's different plates or parts of the bone, right? So there's different patches that kind of radiate and grow with the person. The same thing happens with the turtle or tortoise. So this is a turtle shell that we have. Somebody donated it. They found an eastern box turtle that passed away naturally in the wild, and they donated this. So this is a helpful aid. So you'll notice that there are all these like little kind of patches or areas of bone, right? These are each called scutes. So they are basically areas that they radiate and grow out with the turtle. So instead of one big piece of bone, there are different pieces of basically scutes or bone pieces that radiate and grow together with the tortoise. Now you'll notice that there's the vertebrae or the backbone that's fused right into the shell. So most people know, but some people don't, they can't leave their shell, right? This is part of it. This is their backbone, and this basically will go ahead and grow with them, and they will have the different kind of plates, the bone plates or the different scutes will go ahead and grow and radiate together as the animal grows. Any other questions? So we don't have that animal is from, so that particular skink we met, he is a blue-tongued skink. He's from Australia. Right. We have 2 different skink species here that are found in Australia. Now they're not anything as cool or that are found in Pennsylvania. They're not anything as cool as this. They're actually much smaller that are found here natively. So there's different types of skinks that are found all over the world, but we don't have anything as cool as the blue-tongued skink here. So. Yeah, so I don't know exactly which species they use. So for a lot of toads and frogs, they emit actually poison or they have glands. So we actually have a couple of toads at our facility that they actually have glands right around here that they will secrete when they feel threatened. Ours are very friendly, so they never secrete. We use them for education. So most frogs or toads, they will have different glands that they can secrete a venom or poison. Technically, it's poison. And that is so if, say, an animal tries to eat them, as soon as that animal touches them with their mouth, it's going to taste terrible. Sometimes it will go ahead and like kill the animal or cause them to get violently sick. So basically what people do is they will go ahead and take that and they will use it for holistic purposes. For basically, they say that it is, I know they do like I guess, basically like some sort of hallucination type situation. So that's what they're doing. A lot of it is based on, they say that's religious practices or things like that. A lot of times they'll do it to give them a hallucination, for them to be able to go ahead and see, speak with their God or whatever the case may be. So there's different types of cultures that do utilize that, but they would be using either toads or frogs. I can't remember, I don't know what species specifically they use, but it would be the same premise. Any other questions? Any other questions for me about any of the animals or species that we got to talk about here today?
First of all, what's the pressure like when the parrot latches onto your hand?
So it depends on the species. Definitely the larger the bird. With parrots, the worst case scenario it probably gets. Norman here, he could definitely probably do a lot of damage. He could probably maybe sever a fingertip as well if he really wanted to. With like the larger parrots, like cockatoos and macaws, I've seen them take off people's like tips of their noses and things like that. We do not allow the birds to sit on our shoulders. Any of them, just because that is way too close to anything super important that we have going on up there. And it's just, the parrots, people don't understand, is these parrots, they're not domestic. Most of these animals are maybe 1 or 2 generations removed from the wild. So even if they're born here, like most of these animals are not, almost all of them are not domestic. So they're not our dogs and cats, right? There's not thousands of years of domestication for them to be able to go ahead and interact with us in a safe manner. So like anytime we work with a lot of our animals, like our largest snake is 13, 14 feet. She's very friendly, but we still use precautions while we're handling and feeding these animals because, things can happen, even with the most tame or socialized animal. So parrots are a great example. As I said, people get them, they think, oh, we hand raise them, and they don't realize that those animals are still wild animals. They're not domesticated. They're probably only a couple generations removed from the wild, and we can't speak parrots. They can't speak human. They get frustrated, and the first thing they do when they frustrate is lash out with their beaks, and they can definitely do a lot of damage. Any other questions?
I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing to do with your end.
Sure.
This past summer, for the first time since we've lived here, we had 2 neighbors that have had these little tiny frogs that they notice on their windows and crawling on their garage doors.
Mm-hmm. Are they invasive or native, or we don't know?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so it's hard to know without like seeing what they are. So we do have like a frog species that look very much like tree frogs, or that could be similar to that. So it could be a couple of things where, like, as the temperatures, humidity, and rains are starting to change. I know a lot of people, I moved here a few years ago, but a lot of people have told me, like, it gets really hot and humid here. It's like worse here than Florida some summers. People say, well, it used to not be like this 10 or 15 years ago. So with a lot of the changes in temperature and humidity and things like that, that causes wildlife to kind of change their habits. So like we're finding animals, species that are not supposed to be this far north here. So it could be that we're just seeing patterns or differences for native wildlife that are maybe showing up places. Also, they could have been displaced. Maybe they went ahead and put in a new building in areas, and then all of a sudden where that area was that they used to spawn are no longer there. So they get displaced and they're coming to you. The other thing that we could possibly be would be an invasive species. I would suspect it's probably not invasive because generally that wouldn't last probably too long in the wintertime. But I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of the lantern flies that we see a lot. I see them everywhere now. That's a good example of invasive species here in Pennsylvania. They are introduced here. They're from China. They are horrible for the ecosystem and environment. So, I mean, it could be an invasive species. My guess is it's probably native, just because with our really, really cold temperatures, probably tropical invasive species aren't going to probably survive too long.
There are Pennsylvania tree frogs.
Very similar. So they're not technically called tree frogs, but they look very similar to and behave very similarly to it.
That's what it looks like. It's about this big.
Oh, yeah.
Barely an inch.
It looks like almost a toad.
Well, it was in my planter.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like we do have several different species of toads. Not having like a bunch of different, like really good close-up pictures. My guess that would not look like a tropical tree frog to me. That looks like something that would be native. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to say, we used to have the they disappeared.
You definitely notice that, like, unfortunately, a lot of species of animals are starting to disappear, or you see less of them because of, different impacts of humans and construction and pesticides and things like that. Or, like I said, we're seeing a lot, like having worked in the zoology realm, we're seeing a lot of animals that are changing behaviors or that are being found in places that they used to not be in, just because of a lot of the changes, the temperature and weather changes that we are seeing that have happened over the years, definitely. Any other questions? Other questions? All right, well, I want to thank you. Yep, you have a question? Was it pretty big? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, bullfrogs particularly, they will eat anything. I mean, so frogs and toads, they will eat anything they can fit in their mouth. So like the larger bullfrogs, they will eat small animals. I've seen them eat mice, baby birds, fish. So they'll definitely eat. So we also have those big, so we have at our facility, we have giant Suriname marine toads. They are basically the bullfrogs. If you've ever been down to Florida, they have those invasive, really large toads that are down there. It's basically the same species. Those animals are really problematic because they get large, and the problem is they eat anything that will go in their path. I've seen them eat, like I said, small mammals like rodents and things like that. They'll eat baby birds. They'll eat snakes. They'll eat just about anything, which is great if they're supposed to be there because they're basically Mother Nature's dumpster. Like they'll just eat everything, but that's terrible if it's an invasive species because it's just gonna obliterate everything that comes in their path. But I'm not surprised with that, especially like the larger frogs and toads, they will eat anything. So if they're floating around, there's a fish that gets too close, they're really fast. They'll go ahead and just grab it, and their mouth is massive, and it'll just eat it right in. Yeah, so it actually has to do with the life cycles. Also, too, toads are more land versus frogs tend to be more in the water. They have their skin also is a little bit, it needs to be in the water. They can dry out more so than the toads. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed our program. Thank you so much for having us come out. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.